Greetings, everybody. Nina the Mystic Truther here, and welcome to another SINDAY Live. Tonight, we do have a very special guest. Her name is Karen Holton. Now, we are experiencing some technical difficulties. The only difficulty we have is that she can't hear me. I can hear her, we can see her great and everything else, but she can't hear me. So we're going to try to wing this, okay? So bear with us. She's going to keep an eye on the chat and hopefully see questions if you guys have any. But what I'm going to do is bring her up and just let her do her thing. She's got a whole, presentation for us with her new book. That's what she's going to be talking about. And so if you guys got any questions, make sure you use the chat here, okay? And also for those who are watching the replay later, you can always use the comment section down below, ask questions there, and I'm sure she can answer your questions there as well. Okay, we do go back and check to see if there's any feedback and any questions and that kind of thing. So I have all her links. I got a huge bio and she's got a whole whackload of links. That's all down in the description. We also, actually 2 years ago, we did a show together, actually 2 shows together on my other channel. You can find those episodes up on the Odyssey. Now, I have them linked in the description down below for your convenience, so you can just go there if you would like to see the other shows that we did a couple of years ago and kind of maybe get more on her and other things, okay? Because this show is going to be more or less about her book and about transdimensional, which I know is a buzzword in the community. And so I'm curious to see what that's all about. Hopefully we're going to learn something new here today. So keep an open mind, okay? And also disclaimer, the views of the guest doesn't necessarily reflect the views of me or my co-hosts or the audience for that matter. We keep an open mind and hopefully we can learn some new stuff, you know what I mean? But feel free to ask questions and I'm sure she will answer you guys. Yeah. And also all my links are down there as well. I do have some new stuff in the merch store, so go and check that out. And if you would like to, show some love here during the live, I do have a pinned link for tips and donos so that you can get a shout out during the live show. Feel free to do that anytime. But you can go and check out all my links down below later if you want to. And give me some feedback down below, okay, via the comment section. So without further ado, let's introduce Karen Holton.
Hi, everybody. And I guess Nina's already explained to you about our technical difficulties here. So I'm going to do my best and I'll stop every once in a while and check in with my messenger chat to see if Nina's been able to has any questions for me or anything like that. And Nina, thank you so much for having me on your show. Always a delight, even if we are having sound issues. I appreciate you very much. I love the work that you do. I love your show, and it is lovely to just be part of what you do tonight. So I'm going to talk about my book called Transdimensional, Meet the New Neighbors. And this is a true story based on my actual ET contact. I just want to let everybody, trigger warning, my experience is atypical. I have not heard very many experiences that are similar at all to my experience. But I think that the reason why, I know the reason why I wrote the book was because I was compelled to do so. It's time for us to hear from people that are having contact. I think there's going to be more and more contact. And as I have been told, there are millions of us here on Earth today who are having contact, but might not be remembering or maybe discounting the contact because it's transdimensional. And we seem to think of contact in terms of live, face-to-face, people being abducted in physical metallic spaceships. And my experience is very, very different from this. So in the first 2 chapters of the book, I talk about how the powers that be have kept a lid on extraterrestrial contact and paranormal contact for thousands of years, especially in Western society. And they've done that through the through insane asylums, frontal lobotomies, all kinds of horrible ways that if you went out into public and you started talking about your paranormal experiences, you were severely stigmatized and you were punished and you were locked away or even had parts of your brain removed. By the way, that was still going on until well into the the 1980s, which is not that long ago. And I've got sources also in my book where you can look up where I got my information from and you can do your own research on that. So, chapter 2, I get into my paranormal experiences. And I had a lot of paranormal experiences when I was a child. And I also had a lot of trauma when I was a child. And I don't get into great detail about the trauma that I experienced, but I do mention the basics of a few things that happened to me because I think you, the audience, and the readers will identify with it. Most of us have been traumatized in modern society, one way or another. Many of us have been traumatized. And although these things should never happen, especially to children, they do happen. But what I've discovered through my own experience is that when a door closes, a window opens. So what happens to us when we're traumatized is we find it easier to actually share in other dimensional realities. The term is called dissociation. So we tend to dissociate as a coping mechanism within the brain, and this often opens up channels to unseen beings. Could be angels, fairies, extraterrestrials, unknown guides. And so that is what happened to me. And I tell you about it to encourage you that all humans have a technology that's built into our physiology. So, if you go to mainstream science or medicine, they'll say, oh, yeah, you have glands that produce hormones. Nobody really knows where consciousness is located. They think it's located in the brain, but it's much bigger and much more complex than that. And that's tied into our pineal gland. And it's also tied into our imagination system. Now we're told, well, you're what you imagine in your imagination. That's not real. That's not real. And even if you go to get some psychiatric help, they'll tell you, oh, that's your imagination. That's not real. But that might be partly true. But in my experience, what I have found is that my imagination is a very powerful tool. And throughout all of history, especially in Indigenous groups, we have found this to be a very powerful tool for transdimensional contact, which gives us inspiration and all kinds of good things that are our birthright. And so I think that many of us have had paranormal experiences, but we tend to discount it. And we tend to go, oh, that's just my imagination. So let me describe to you what transdimensional means. First of all, back when I had my ET contact, I did not recognize it as transdimensional. It took me a number of years to sort myself out. And actually, the experience made it very difficult to live a mainstream life, to fit into society. Because, first of all, I was overwhelmed with what I had been through, and then I was trying to make sense of it. And we don't have concepts and language to talk openly about these things. And so it takes us a while to adjust unless we find somebody else who's been through it. And then, we can understand our own experience as a reflection of theirs. So transdimensional means the ability to move between dimensional realities. So that could mean different dimensions as we understand it. It can mean different places in the universe because there are ways of traversing beyond space and time. And the Monroe Institute is a really good example. they actually teach people how to move outside of the trappings of our physicality, where there is no time and space. And so we can have all these adventures in different realities. Also, there's the spiritual realms. So there's other dimensions, there's the spiritual realms. There is not just one universe, there's a multiverse. And then there's the whole concept of simulation theory, and that has to do with quantum physics. And so it's a complex issue. And I think I can describe my experience as being transdimensional in this way. I have an image behind me of the big ship. The big ship is a city ship where I was transported to for my extraterrestrial contact. The big ship is not located in any specific solar system or galaxy. It's actually in what I would call an envelope that's transdimensional or interdimensional. So I want you to imagine for a minute a whole bunch of ovals that are shaped like the petals of a daisy. And I'm going to describe for you what's known as a Venn diagram. So imagine each petal on this daisy represents a different space and time coordinate, a different dimension, a different reality, a different position within the multiverse, a different timeline, somewhere in the spiritual realms. They all intersect and overlap at the very center of the daisy. That is interdimensional space, and that's where the big ship is located. Now, in the diagram behind me and on the cover of my book, I've positioned the big ship within the flower of life, because the flower of life is a Venn diagram. And you can see all those oval shapes in the flower of life that all intersect. That's very much like the greater reality. So I didn't have the term transdimensional until a couple of years ago, when I had already started writing my book. And it came to me, as with my transdimensional experiences, while I was asleep. So I want to be totally upfront. Never do I have any memories of a spaceship coming and picking me up and beaming me aboard and taking me anywhere. Didn't happen like that for me. What happened for me is I'd go to bed at night, be in my pajamas, kiss my kitty cat goodnight, go off to sleep, and suddenly, wham, I'd be on the big ship. I'd be meeting beings, having adventures. It felt like a very physical experience. I'd wake up in the morning, bam, I'd be back in my bed, in my pajamas, wondering what the hell just happened. And at first, I thought I was dreaming. But you know what? When I dream, my dreams don't make sense. They're highly symbolic, they're abstract, they're not connected to each other. I might have two or three completely different dreams in one night, or I might not dream at all the next night. So, what happened for me, this was a 3-month period of time back in 2014. I'd go to bed at night and I'd go to sleep, and I would be aboard the big ship having these amazing connections and experiences. And then I would be there for what seemed like weeks or even months of time, because there's a time dilation when we leave our 3-dimensional reality. So even though I was gone for only one night, I was having weeks worth of experiences. And it was always a shock to me to wake up in the morning, be back in my own little bed, checking, the date and seeing that it was actually only one night had passed. Then during the day, I'd be walking around going, what the heck just happened? Trying to figure it out, thinking about all these things that I had done. Go back to bed, and boom, I'm having another 2, 3 week, 4 week period of time, again with my extraterrestrial friends, having all kinds of adventures. And it caused me to be very socially isolated, Nina. I couldn't go out and have a normal life. I was so overwhelmed with everything I had been through. I was like a zombie, and it only lasted for 3 months. And as abruptly as it started, it stopped. And it took me years to sort it out. What the heck happened? what did I experience? And then making sure that I did not delve into other people's extraterrestrial experiences, because I wanted my experience to be pure. I wanted it to be kept very pure and true to what I actually experienced and not influenced by other people's ideas. And because I'm not much of a reader, that was easy for me just not to read other books. And I have not read science fiction novels or anything like that. So I knew this was my true experience. And like I said, it took me years to sort it out. And that's how it went. I'll just tell you quickly some of the chapters that are in this book, what you can expect to learn from my transdimensional contact. So in chapter 3, I talk about an intergalactic resettlement program. And there are many intergalactic resettlement programs. The beings that I was in contact with are only one of many, many more beings than you could ever imagine, from more worlds than you could ever imagine. It really bothers me when I hear other contactees say, well, this is how it went for me. And they get really mad at other people who had different experiences. I know two
Mhm.
women who have had lifelong contact with the Greys who I've met in the last couple of years. And they swear that their reality is the only reality and the other person is wrong and making it up. But that doesn't make sense because there are so many different races of Greys. There's so many different races of beings. Just if
Mhm.
you try to look into and understand how big our galaxy is and how many inhabitable planets and how time is very different, millions of years ahead of us in so many places. And then you look at how many galaxies there are in the universe. Like, it's unbelievable. It's mind boggling. And that's why I think and I believe that all experiencers are doing their very best to talk about an experience that we don't have concepts for, we don't have language for, and we're filtering it through our own experience the best way we can. And I look at it as though we all have a piece of the puzzle. And all those pieces, it's up to you, the reader or the viewer or the audience, to piece together those puzzle pieces and make up your own mind on what you think is real and true and what is not, what's real for you. That's what really matters here. And then the other thing is, how are you benefiting from hearing about this contact? So I know some people have had some really scary contact experiences. I believe everybody's telling the truth. Why would we make this stuff up? That makes no sense to me. So,
Mhm.
I think that although that's true, there are many, many more experiences that are very positive. And even people who started out having scary contact, once they were given some time to process and understand and realize they're not alone and that there's a much bigger picture at play here, they come to see their experiences actually benefiting them, changing their life for the better in the long run. So I do a whole chapter about the intergalactic resettlement program, because it's very common for worlds to have natural catastrophes, or even sometimes their own people on their own planets go a bit nuts with the medical industry or whatever, and they start inventing stuff and getting people to use it, and it turns out it wipes out most of the population. There are many, many reasons why resettlement might become important. And these beings make themselves available to help resettle people. But I want to make one thing perfectly clear: the ETs that I had contact with are not going to come in here and just swoop up everybody and take us on to new worlds. It doesn't work like that. Some of us might be a good candidates to go. I can't even say for sure if I would be rescued. I don't know. But all I know is that the people who do their best and make over their lives and are peaceful, and they're not fighting, and they're not into conflict and drama, and people that have learned how to love each other and have empathy, those are the people who are going to be good candidates for relocation if that becomes necessary. But ET has complete faith that we can solve our own problems. And the other thing is that ET, at least in my experiences, believe that we have the capacity to raise ourselves up to a higher level of development. We can start relying on our paranormal gifts, making contact with our spirit guides, with other beings. In the ET world that I was involved in, they only use telepathy. Telepathy is the interdimensional and transdimensional and intergalactic universal language because it doesn't rely on words. It's honest, it's a feeling based communication. It's much like running short little video clips through your imagination along with symbols. Some people might consider those symbols to be, what do you call it? Nina, you would know the word. Um, Sigils might be like sigils because they have energy and they carry meaning and they carry intention and feelings and emotions. And you learn to read all of these combined as a language, and that's how they communicate. So it's not word based at all, and it's totally honest and transparent. And because these beings have raised themselves to a higher level of consciousness, they're not offended. You know, if you have a feeling and this is how you feel about something, that's great. That's how you feel about it. That's accepted. And so there's a level of authenticity we don't see on this planet. So the next chapter after that is, what is ET like? What does ET look like? That's a common question a lot of us have. We tend to think of ET as being like this stereotypical grays, but in my experience, they were very diverse. So there are some that look so much like us. If they walked down the street, we wouldn't even know that they were transdimensional or extraterrestrial beings. And then others look more different than us, still humanoid. But because of the telepathic communication, it doesn't take long for you to feel very at ease with beings who have different appearances. And they come in all shapes and sizes. And, you know, even here on Earth, look at how many, we're all of the same race. We're of the human race. Well, ETs, we're all of us are from the same species. We're just from different family lines. So look at the diversity we have amongst humans. ET also displays that kind of diversity. And even one group from a specific area or star cluster or dimension, they don't all look the same. You know, here on Earth, you can be from a family with the same mother and the same father, and you can have brothers and sisters that look quite different than you. And the same is true for ET. So I think that's another thing that my book does, is it helps you to raise awareness about the diversity and about what these beings are like, and about how it's more important on how we evolve our souls and how we become better beings, more loving, more peaceful, more mild and patient. And of course, ET teaches us that we have to learn to be that way towards ourselves before we can really start exercising that towards others. I'm just going to have a quick look at my phone and see if Nina has any questions before I continue. Did you have any more questions, Nina?
No.
Okay, then I'll just ramble on and you feel free to interrupt me when you want to.
Okay.
So after that, I talk about the big ship. What is the big ship like? Well, first of all, I already mentioned that the big ship is not in any one place. And when it needs to travel from one position to another position, it does so instantly. Point A literally becomes point B. There's no traveling for thousands of years across space and time. Doesn't work like that at all. It happens instantly. And it's really quite amazing, the whole process. The big ship is huge. I call it the big ship because I don't have a better name. Like I said, none of the ETs speak English. We don't use language. So, I have to sort of translate everything into some kind of a frame of reference that everybody understands what I'm talking about. So, when I talk about the big ship, that's the city ship that I visit, but that's not the only city ship out there, and they're massive. So, the city ship that I was on probably held about 5 million to 10 million beings, but some of them are as big as the earth, and some of them are even bigger. They're astoundingly huge. And the other thing about them is they are actually conscious. They are beings of themselves. So what that means is that they have, you can telepathically interface with the big ship. And because it's biological, it needs to be biological and conscious in order to travel through dimensions the way that it does. The ET, let's see, Milky Way Soul Tribe says the ETs are talking with their minds. Yes, it's not just your mind, though, it's a whole body sensation. So, for instance, if Nina and I were communicating using telepathy, I'd see little imaginings in my mind. I'd feel an emotion or a combination of emotions. I might feel body sensations. I might see symbols as like an overlay. So what I'm seeing with my visual eyes, it might come across as an overlay where I can still see through my eyes, but I can also see like a layer on top of that that is a visual overlay. And occasionally sounds as an auditory overlay. And you learn to read it as a whole body sensation, not just in your mind. And they're not putting English into your mind. You may interpret it through your own consciousness as English as you're translating it, but they don't use any language. Let's see, Milky Way Soul Tribe says, why can't we see the ships? Are they cloaked? Seen one, I could only see it by taking a picture of it, and it was huge. Well, I can't speak for other kinds of ships. So the big ship that I visit is absolutely transdimensional, interdimensional, and you wouldn't be able to see it at all from anywhere here on Earth. Now, there are many, many ships that people do see. Those are from other races of ETs that I can't really comment on because I haven't actually had experience with them. Johan says, I just got back. Ask her if if the big ships cloak themselves in the clouds. As I said before this, no, the big ship that I go to is in interdimensional space. You would not be able to see it from looking up at the sky. But there are many, many different kinds of ships and orbs and things that people can see from the ground. And yes, they frequently do hide out in the clouds. And I don't know about cloaking. I can't speak to that. So the other thing about the big ship is, when you're watching like a Star Trek series, there's all these people and beings sitting at desks in front of screens with all these light panels, and they're constantly making adjustments and recalibrating things. Well, there's none of that, absolutely none of that on the big ship. When you're on the big ship, you don't see any technology apart from some tablets that we use and something that looks like a thin, narrow headband that we use for the virtual reality system. So we have a group of beings who we would consider to be engineers. And what they do is they interface telepathically with the big ship to look after its needs. But there's no need for actual technology. It's all biological. And another thing is everything you need aboard the big ship is created using, and these are my words, kind of a biological nanotechnology. Everything just self assembles like magic in front of your eyes. And when you're finished with it, it deassembles, and breaks back into its minute particles and disappears. So everything can just happen and become as we need it. Nina asks, do they use their minds to control the ship? No, they don't. Well, yes and no. They don't need to control the ship. The ship controls itself. It's an entity, it's a conscious being of itself. But for instance, when we needed to move from one set of coordinates to another, that would be communicated to the big ship's consciousness through the crew. They would communicate that, then the big ship makes it happen. And let me tell you how it happens. The big ship actually, and the city ships actually need us, the beings, with our inborn biological technology, which we call our imagination. They need that in order to fold space. So what happens is when it's time to move the big ship, we all just take comfortable positions. The big ship emits these beautiful, gentle tones that put us into a sort of a hypnotic state. I always fall asleep. I don't know why. I miss all the excitement. And then what it does is it uses all of our collective imaginations to fold space. And that's how it moves from one position to another. And another thing that's similar to that is the way the big ship gets fueled. So it doesn't fill up on gas or anything like that. It doesn't have any nuclear reactors or anything like that. It uses our life force energy. So when the big ship needs to replenish its energy sources, again, we all find positions of comfort aboard the big ship. The big ship emits tones. It puts us into a very deep meditative state, and then it absorbs all at once what it needs from our collective life force energy. And then over the next few days or weeks, our bodies replenish our own life force energy. So the big ship does not replenish its own life force energy. It takes that life force energy from our bodies, which I thought was really cool. And they also have healing pods on board, and the healing pods, you just climb into them. They close like a clamshell. They're very comfortable, and you're treated with all kinds of frequencies. So that might be smells, and you could think of that as being like aromatherapy, lights, sounds, all kinds of different wavelengths of energy, and that's what heals your body. So everybody aboard is in perfect health. Nobody needs to go to a medical center or a med bay or anything like that. Yes, the big ship is compartmental. So if you look at it sideways, it kind of looks like a plump button that's sort of flattened at the top and at the bottom. And it has many different floors. And each floor is laid out kind of like a labyrinth, if you can imagine a labyrinth. And there are some hallways and quarters and labs and things like that that are stationary. They stay the same all the time. But for other areas, like I said before, this nano self-assembling biological ability of the big ship will just create what we need when we need it. There's no furniture really. We just recline on the floor. It's very soft. The floor kind of rises up and comforts our body so that we're very comfortable. So we don't have a lot of tables and chairs and stuff like that on board the big ship. Um, what else? Oh, do you guys want to hear about the bathrooms?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. A lot of people don't talk about this when they talk about, visiting spaceships. So I thought I would tell you about it. It's probably too much information, but what the heck, at least you'll know. So basically, like I said, there are areas all over the big ship on the floor that you're on that have areas that can self-assemble to what you need. So for instance, they don't have doors that open and close. Just a doorway will materialize, and then after you go through it, dematerializes. So the big ship, because it's telepathic, it senses what you want, what you need, what your intention is, and it creates it for you. So you go in and you're in a small kind of a room, and you let the ship know you have to go to the bathroom. And out from the floor comes this sort of base panel that's on the floor, like a platform comes out. And then from the platform, there is like a pleated wide tube that comes up from the floor. And you just drop your drawers and park it on this tube and do your business. When you're done doing your business, it emits a little poof of kind of like a fine powder or mist, and that dissolves any moisture or debris or whatever that you would not want to stick to your body. And it just gets vacuumed very gently back down the tube. Then you stand up and pull up your pants, you're ready to go. The tube then disassembles back into the platform, and the platform then slides back into, well, what looks like a wall and just disassembles itself. So I thought that was pretty cool. So everything is self-assembling and deassembling. And there's no need for housekeeping because everywhere on the big ship, there's this same kind of fine mist that comes out and sort of coats everything and then is gently vacuumed away. And this is constantly being recycled. And it collects things like little bits of skin cells or lint or debris or odors or anything like that is constantly being recycled and cleansed. And you're not even really aware of it. I noticed it at first, but soon I didn't notice it anymore. So Joe wants to know, can diseases such as cerebral palsy be cured with these med beds? I call them healing pods. They work a little differently than a med bed, and I would say absolutely. When you go through your orientation, so after I do a chapter on the big ship and how it works, I do a chapter 6 is called orientation. It's all about how I found myself aboard the big ship and how I got adjusted to everything and learned how to learn telepathy and everything. And one of the first things they did was they had me walk down this enormous tube that was about 8 feet high, cylinder tube, and you walk through it and they do a scan and they know your DNA. They know even your past lives, residue from your past lives, everything about what you look like on the inside, what you look like on the outside, everything, even your emotional content, if you've had traumas in your life, it all shows up and it's all documented. From that, they can actually correct your DNA. And actually getting back to resettlement, when just say hypothetically things go awry here on Earth and they take 50 billion of, no, wouldn't be billion, it'd be million. Say they take 50 million of us humans. We'd all go to a planet where we don't stay permanently, but that's where we are restored to health. Our bodies are detoxified. We're healed. Our genetics are healed. Everything is healed. Plus our minds are healed, and we learn the truth about how our universe works and the truth about humanity and other beings, and all of that happens before you resettle onto another planet permanently. So Johan asks, what's the food like? Well, actually, everybody aboard the big ship is vegan. There are no animals. And these are such gentle beings. I can't imagine them having a slaughterhouse and killing animals for food. It's not that they're against it. It's that it's much easier just to have this massive hydroponic system aboard the big ship. So as you're walking down the corridors and in many of the different rooms and areas, there's tons of plant life and all kinds of plant life. I get into that in great detail in the book. And you just sample different things and find what tastes good to you. And then we would get together once a day and we'd prepare one big meal for ourselves. But other times during the day, you just sort of snack on what you like, and it's growing everywhere. And like I said, it's a hydroponic system.
Mm-hmm.
What can I do to get on board the big ship? Well, I'll tell you, chapter 9 is how to make contact. So I actually even get into that. So I want to tell you, chapter 7 is a long chapter, and on it, I talk exactly about entertainment and about their families and what we do for recreation and how we learn and do telepathy and everything. It's basically a typical day. You wake up in the morning, what do you do? Where do you go? Who do you meet? And I go through everything. when we would join up with other city ships, they would stack on top or below, kind of like a stacking effect. But everybody was free to roam and go wherever they wanted. But we'd have these amazing festivals and we'd celebrate getting together. And it was very much like what I would imagine a clan gathering would be like. So you're meeting beings and you're learning new technologies, and of course, believe it or not, fashion is a big deal. And they have no money system. Everything is free. And so what they do for fun is they love to trade. Everybody loves to trade stuff. And you get to trade, and if you really liked something that someone else had, they just give it to you because they can make more. There's more of everything. Abundance is a given. And yes, they're very much into families. Chapter 8 is love, reproduction, and sex. I get into all of it, no holds barred. And I talk about how, first of all, I talk about what their interpretation of love is. What is love? How do they exercise love? Interestingly, these beings do not have religion or religious beliefs. They operate on what I call the love harmonic. So that means that they're loving to themselves and they're loving to each other. That means they're patient with themselves and patient to others. They're mild. They're faithful. They are peaceful. They are like what we will be at our next stage of development. They are absolutely lovely beings to be around. And I cannot tell you how disturbing it was to come home. I cannot tell you how hard that has been for me after experiencing what they're like. Now, they believe aboard the big ship that sex is as natural as eating or sleeping or any other body function. And while they actually don't have sexual contact until they're full grown. And these beings live much longer than us. So I would say within about the first 100 years is when they reproduce, but they live for at least 500 years, even longer. They live much longer than we do. But once they reach sexual maturity, they do have sexual encounters with other beings. And some are attracted to males and some are attracted to females. There's no taboos about that sort of thing. And sometimes they might have sex with two or three different beings. Like there's no real taboos about it. It's just considered a healthy part of their lifestyle. But this changes when they want to produce offspring. So they didn't have clones or cloning bays or anything like that for reproduction. What they would do is a male, which was able to implant a female with his seed, and the female who was able to carry the child, they would come together before she would agree to be impregnated. They would work out their issues and have a very harmonious, stable, mature relationship. And then when they were ready, they would produce offspring and they would stay together in a monogamous relationship until the offspring or children reach maturity. And then they leave the nest, and then it's up to the parents whether they want to stay together, separate, and how they want to continue their sexual contact. So I know this sounds very old fashioned and you wouldn't expect it to be this way, but the reason they do it this way is because it works. They take bringing a soul into corporeal life very seriously. And they know that as parents, how they treat that child will affect generations to come. And these beings have worked very hard to remove the dysfunction and the problems and all the things that we don't like about ourselves and others here on planet Earth. They've removed that from their lifestyles, and they know what builds successful societies and successful worlds. And from their successful universes, they know how, and that's why they make that they make that commitment. Now, that's an interesting question. Is sex physical or telepathic? And I have to tell you, I get into great detail in that in the book, but it's both. So there is physical sex, but there's telepathic sex. And telepathic sex is very interesting and comes in two different methods. One way is heart to heart. So if you had heart to heart sexual contact with another being, you wouldn't have to be touching them physically, but you'd have to be in the same vicinity because your heart produces a toroidal field. And those toroidal fields have to overlap for you to have heart to heart sexual contact. And you don't really think about anything because it's such a physical experience. It's overwhelmingly physical. So you will lock eyes with the person you're having heart to heart sexual contact with, but you're not thinking about anything because you're overwhelmed with these powerful, loving, erotic sensations that bring you to orgasm. Then there's another way of having psychic sex, and it's different, but same result. And that is mind to mind. So because they're telepathic, you can have mind to mind sex with another being, and they could be anywhere on the other ship, on the ship. They don't have to be even in the same room as you. And you share and contribute in erotic imagery, and you imagine, and through that, you're stimulated to the point where you would be able to have orgasm. So that's a very mental, visual, in your imagination form. And I got to tell you, when you first start going to the big ship, and before you learn telepathy, a big part of telepathy is a big part of telepathy is learning to do what they call shielding. Shielding is learning to keep your thoughts to yourself, how to keep your emotions to yourself. You don't want to be blabbing every thought that comes into your mind to everybody. That would be considered rude. So you learn to shield and to keep things private. And these beings are quite private when it comes to sex. But when you're brand new and you're from a speaking world and it takes you time to learn telepathy, if you end up having sex, oh my God, everybody knows about it. And it can be very embarrassing to us, not so much to them. They can actually shield us out if they want to. So Joe asks about birth control. Nope, they don't use condoms or pills or anything like that. When they are ready to come together to produce offspring, then they allow their bodies to reproduce, to get pregnant. And before that, they have a way of controlling their physiology, which is interesting. Kangaroos do it here on Earth. They're able to conceive and then put the embryo in stasis until they're in an environment where it's safe to then develop that embryo. And it makes sense that these advanced beings would be able to control their physiology. How are we doing for time, Nina? I've been rambling on and on and on here.
Yeah, we're good. Good.
Okay. Are the apartment communities, subdivisions, colleges, spaces, schools, grocery stores? Okay. There's no grocery stores. How it works is everything on the big ship is recycled. So everything, whether it's your clothes you strip off at the end of the day, when you're finished with a meal and you've got plates and things, everything that you just don't need anymore goes into a recycling chute. And that stuff, even when you go to the bathroom, everything goes into a recycling chute. Even the fluid after it feeds the hydroponic system goes into the um, the recycling system. And in the recycling system, think of it as being like the digestive system of the big ship. Okay. So its hydroponic system is kind of like its circulation system. And its recycling system is a little bit like your digestive or your waste system that you have in your body. That's what the big ship does. So everything goes into this these sort of holding tanks. And there are these critters that I call bugs that live in there, and they're happy. That's their perfect environment. They break everything down to its simple components. So fresh water is extracted, and that is what we would use for, for the thirst quenching stations, or anything we want pure water for our sinks or showers even. And then there's a more viscous fluid that feeds the hydroponic system and also the public baths that I didn't really get into yet. And then all the more solid waste goes into something like, if you've seen Star Trek, they have a replicator. Well, it's sort of like that, but not quite. It's sort of like a cross between a replicator and a 3D printer, and it prints out whatever you need. And I don't know how it's delivered, but it's delivered to your room. So when I talk in great detail about my quarters as I experienced them in the chapter 6 on my orientation. But anyway, so in my quarters, there's an object that looks a little bit like a small dresser, and it actually has drawers. And so anything that you want, in the beginning, I would order it or design it and order it on my tablet. But then when I got used to the virtual reality system, which I used to communicate with the big ship, I just put in an order for what I would want. And then it would show up in one of these drawers. It was really, really slick. And so everything you could possibly want or need. The education starts off with your tablets. The tablets are kind of like halfway between a cell phone that we use today and a tablet that we use today, kind of halfway in between size. It's like a clear resin or crystal or maybe plexiglass. I don't know what it's made out of. It's got rounded edges. It's rectangular. It has no ports or buttons or dials or anything like that. There's a telepathic interface with it, so you communicate directly with it. And then it can produce images flat on the screen or as three-dimensional holographic images that float above the screen. And you would use that for, in the beginning, for orientation, for education, for finding your way around the floor so you can get back to your quarters, all that kind of stuff. But eventually you can use the virtual reality. And like I said, it's just like a thin band that goes around the back of your head to the side. It's got two little nubs that rest on your temples. And with it, you could interface directly with the big ship's consciousness, and it holds all information. Anything you want to learn, anything you want to know, that is how you learn it. And it activates your imagination, and you're experiencing it like a lived live experience, except that you're laying on your bed or you're sitting, cross-legged in a comfortable position with this little headband on. And that's how you learn telepathy. And I go into great detail on how we learn telepathy, what the four learning stages are, how you start to learn telepathy right through to the master and to your proficient. Once you're proficient in telepathy, then you can start deciding on what your specialization will be, whether it's botany or ship dynamics or some technical thing, because nobody has to work for money. Everything is supplied, your food, your clothing, your toys, everything you could possibly want. So now you spend all of your time pursuing what you're super interested in. Whatever you're super interested in, music, you name it, healing, it could be anything. That's what you train, and then you participate and contribute to the big ship and to the other beings in the capacity of service, more or less. Yeah, where you can get my book. My book is available on Amazon worldwide. Unfortunately, I don't know why, but some people are unable to find it. So this is what I suggest if you want to find it, is go to the Amazon for your country, and then go to the menu and select books or the Kindle store, and then type a secondary search bar will show up, and then type in transdimensional, meet the new neighbors. I was given the term transdimensional and I was directed to call the book that, but I added the meet the new neighbors because I thought it was kind of funny. And I thought, well, these are the new neighbors. We should get used to them. And so if you type that um, into the search that's within the bookstore or the Kindle store, you'll be able to find it quite easily. The other thing is I do have images in the book. They are in grayscale, but I also offer PDFs, full color, full size color PDFs on my website. And I just want to quickly mention my latest book, which I just published this month. When you buy it, it won't have this band across the middle. This is a proof copy. It's not coming through. There you are. It's called Transdimensional 2, Meet the Greys picture book. And in it, I'll just quickly tell you, I talk myself and 7 other people who have had extensive contact with ETs, especially the Greys, have written some paragraphs. Like, for instance, this page, I don't know if you can see it, was written by Preston Dennett. There's a little image that he contributed. Nancy Thames, Dolly Saffron, the Kinsella twins. I have 8 of us have contributed to make up the first 2 chapters. After that, it's all images. Now, these are not photographs of Greys. What they are AI generated. So I worked extensively with AI to get it to generate the images. And I have a chapter all about the Greys males. And then I have a whole chapter on Grey females. And I have a whole chapter on Grey children, and a whole chapter on here's some of the children, and a whole chapter on hybrids and human looking Greys. And like I said, there are thousands of different races of Greys, but I thought it was important for us as humans to get used to beings that look a little different than us, so that when the Greys, whatever race they are, start manifesting themselves and showing themselves to humans, well, you're not going to go into panic if you're familiar with their basic body style. You're not going to be freaked out. You can remain grounded. You can keep your critical thinking skills. You can be more resilient to propaganda if you are more familiar with what they look like. And although these are not identical replicas, they're close enough that they would get you used to what the Greys look like. And the only thing the Greys actually have in common is their skin does not contain the pigment necessary to reflect light that we can pick up in the color spectrum that our eyes are able to pick up. And so they all look like they're gray. And that's about the only thing they have in common. So that is also available on Amazon. And can procreate once they decide to do so. Yes, of course, they can form families, and they form monogamous couples, and they stay together and they stay monogamous until the children are reach adulthood and are ready to leave home, and then they're free to do as they want. And the other thing about the extraterrestrials is they don't get old the way we do. They stay in very good health right up until they're ready to pass over. They don't lose their minds. They don't lose their memories. They never become decrepit. And when they're ready to move on, they pick a day and a time, and then they shed their bodies and they go off into, I don't know where they go, but into the next level of existence. And it's considered a very positive thing. And they don't have to die. We call it dying. They do not consider death a real thing. They just view it as a transition time. Okay, so I think we're out of time. Thank you so much, Nina. I'm so sorry about our technical problems. I don't know why my headphones and my speaker won't pick you up, but it's been a delight. Thank you so much for having me on the show. And I want to wish much success, love, and light to all of your listeners and your viewers and to everybody. Thank you.
Thanks for coming on, Karen. All right, so I'm just going to finish the show on my own here because she can't hear what I'm saying. So there's no sense her sitting there and not hearing what I'm saying. So, but yeah, thank you so much to Karen. Thank you for coming on. This is very interesting. And now that she showed me the diagram there of that little ship with all those, it almost looked like the flower of life. I know, what's his name has been talking a lot about that lately. Lauren, what's his name? Oh, the black dude. I can't remember his name now. Anyways, he talks a lot about that. And that kind of actually resonates with me with the transdimensional, as in there's no time. And I've talked about that myself and with my own experiences, that there is no time. And I can see how, yeah, I can see that. Like, I do resonate with it. I think there might be something to this whole thing here. And so I would definitely look into it. I highly recommend getting the book if you guys want to. Like she says, there's a PDF version that's a little bit cheaper than the hardback. You know, if you guys are into that. And not Billy Carson, the other guy. Terrence Howard. Yeah, that guy. He's really into the whole flower of life. And he's actually come up with some very interesting things with it. A lot to do with math and whatnot. So go and check that out. Yeah, so I definitely resonate with it, and I think it'd be worth a read for sure. You know, does anybody have any other questions for me or anything while we're still here? Anything else that you guys want to talk about now that the guest is gone? We can do it now. If not, we've done our hour here. You know, that's kind of the goal, I guess. But yeah, so I guess next week we're probably going to continue on with the Anunnaki story. It's getting very interesting in there, so we're going to continue on with that. And I do have other guests lined up. However, I have them spaced out so that they're not all bang, bang, bang kind of thing. We'll have a bit of a break with our own shows in between and stuff like that. So I do have every month, pretty much, I got a guest coming on here for the next few months. So stay tuned for that. Make sure you are subscribed, hitting that bell for all notifications, and hopefully you'll get notified when I go live. And I do have all kinds of links down below for Karen. I got the US and the Canadian Amazon link. I think it's the first links that you're going to find with all her links. Then she's got a website. She's got all the social media. She's got all kinds of things. Like, she's been around for a while, doing this for a while professionally. And she's got a lot to offer, a lot of stuff to check out. And of course, videos. She goes live, I think, a couple of times a week. Like, she's, live a lot. So go and make sure you subscribe to her YouTube. Let's see. Sorry, I just realized that I hadn't taken down my thing here. I want to grab some links for you guys here for a second here now. I'm not going to bother with the book because, like I said, there's two different links there. But let me see if I can grab her YouTube here. That's probably the easiest thing for you guys to kind of do, is to go and subscribe to her YouTube. Get that up. And then, like I said, she goes live at least a couple of times a week, I think. She's got guests on, and she does a lot of things. So make sure you go and subscribe there. And all the other links for her stuff is down below, guys. Yeah, this is relevant, right? Because now that this is the time of disclosure. So she had this, years ago, and a lot of people have, right? So it is kind of crunch time now. If you ever had any experiences or wanted to share something, now is definitely the crunch time to get it out, because otherwise people are going to say, oh, well, you heard that somewhere else. You know what I mean? So I've noticed a lot of people are kind of scrambling now, getting books out, getting things out. I noticed they're going on, big celebrities, shows, getting their stuff out so they can say that, hey, I talked about that. You know what I mean? To get it out before it's too late, essentially, if you want to, be ahead of the whole disclosure thing. So yeah, you sub to her. Oh, good. Okay. Yeah. And I've had her on, like I said in the beginning of the show, I've done 2 shows with her already. Okay. That was on my other channel that got taken down. So, but I do have them up on the Odyssey, and I did put the links down below. So right underneath all her stuff will be the 2 links for the 2 different shows that we did up on my other channel that's now up on Odyssey. So you guys can go and watch it there. You probably get more information on other stuff, because she is a life coach, I believe. So she does have a lot of other things to offer as well that I do think we talk more about in those videos. So if this piqued your interest and you want to know more about Karen and what she's up to, go and check out the videos that we did up on Odyssey. So links are down below, guys. Yeah, the government's getting in. Well, they're the ones that are doing the disclosure, right? So, so yeah. I've noticed there's a lot of these whistleblowers are like I said, really, trying to get on all the shows. I noticed, what's his name? Greer. He was just on the PDB or whatever it is show. I watched that the other day. It's like an hour and a half or something. I posted on Gilded. Gilded is where we post everything, guys. So if if you want to see what we're posting and what we're doing, see if I can find it for you. You definitely want to join us up on the Gilded. For those of you who are interested in all my mystic stuff, you want to make sure that you follow me on the Facebook and the new Discord channel, okay? But for those who are not into the mystic and divination and all that stuff, don't worry about that. But Gilded is where everything else is, okay? All the Sunday show stuff, and Robert's in there and a few people. And so, yeah, so I did all of these things that I talk about. I do post them up on the Gilded so that you guys can go and check it out there. You know what I mean? So, yeah. What's he saying here? Maybe that's why they're building their bunker. Yeah, so that's what's going on. They are definitely been building underground, okay, whether it's personal bunkers or I believe that they, are preparing for something, right? So it's kind of interesting when she's saying that ship is so big. It's like the size of the planet. Well, that kind of goes with the whole Nibiru thing, doesn't it? Because apparently it is bigger than our planet. Like, it's huge. So that kind of goes with that as well. We can if we can grasp that Nibiru is that big, then we can kind of wrap our brains around that the ship that she was on was that big as well. So that's very interesting. And obviously, if these things are coming into our solar system, into our orbit, that's obviously going to disturb life on the planet here. Apparently that's what happened when they came the first time around, and so if that's coming, so let's go back to the whole Nibiru thing. I know that was big back, a few years back, but maybe they're onto something. Maybe that thing is coming back. Maybe they are coming back. Maybe that's what the government is getting prepared for. So there's something to think about. And if that is the case, yeah, they're all going to want to go down below while the disturbance happens up here as they're coming closer, right? And so that kind of makes sense as well. So, what is really going on? That's what we're trying to figure out. That's why we're doing all these shows and trying to figure things out. Reading books, doing shows, you know what I mean? Trying to educate ourselves. So trying to figure out what's going on. So you guys let me know what you think. What'd you think of her story? What do you think of her stuff? Leave it down below. If you got any questions for her, put them in the comment section, not here on the live, but in the comment section after, because we're not going to be able to see it here, right? And we'll be able to go right to your question and answer you right underneath so that you'll get notified when we do as well. And yeah, and then others can see it as well. So do that. Everybody's we got some people coming in now just saying hi everybody. I didn't say hi to everybody. It was just too many in there and we're having technical difficulties, and so I'm surprised we were even able to do a show, but here it is. We were able to get past our little technical difficulties there and get that information out to you anyway. So make sure that you are hitting that like, help the algorithms get the show out there, because this is the kind of information that needs to get out there. to wake people up to, you know, these things might not be so far-fetched. You know what I mean? So, yeah, thank you, voiceover. Thank you. Yeah, hit the like and share it out, right? Share it around to all your groups and yeah, group chats, you know, things on Facebook. I know there's a lot of different groups and yeah, isn't that what it's called? Groups? Yeah, I think that's what it's called. Yeah. You did. Oh, thank you, Joe. I appreciate you guys. I thank you all so much for your support. Okay. I do appreciate it. And yeah, make sure that you go and check out the new merch in the merch store. And also email me if you would like some stickers or fridge magnets or some sprays or a private session or whatever you would like. Just email me, okay, over at Nina the Mystic 68 at gmail.com. All the links are down below, guys. Emails, all that stuff is down below. So yeah, thank you all for watching, and I guess we'll see you guys next Sunday for episode 10 now of the Anunnaki story. In the meantime, though, I am coming live here on Wednesday with Hump Day. So stay tuned for that. So don't forget, I'll be scheduling all of these shows tomorrow. So look out for that, and you can always hit that little notify me button. So hopefully you'll get notified when I go live, so you don't miss out. And that way we can chat in here, and you know, it's a bit of a community going on in here. I appreciate you guys showing up here. So thank you all for being here. Thank you for watching. Thank you for liking and sharing. And we'll see you guys all in the next one. Bye.